There's not a cure. The only thing that resembles a cure is prevention, right? That is the only thing that resembles a cure is simply prevention. I will come back and we will have a party if there's a cure, but as of today, Magic Johnson was not cured of HIV. I hear that all the time. He's very good doctors and very good money, right? So he's fortunate in that way, but he is very much still living with HIV. So I'm going to end it there because I want the meat and potatoes of why I came is to tell my story. So I'm going to leave it there. If you feel like there's something I didn't cover, feel free to grab me before you head out. But the big reason I came was to tell my story. So I'm going to go way back. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, or a suburb of Detroit, Michigan, and I was born to a woman who probably shouldn't have kids. I'm sure she did a lot of things really well, that just wasn't one of them. And at right around 2, after several complaints from neighbors, the state of Michigan removed me from care of her and directly into an ICU unit for starvation and basically child abuse. And during that process, her parental rights were removed, and then I was owned by the state of Michigan. And while I was recovering in the hospital, I was adopted by an amazing family. And they were loving, and they were fundamental, and they were honest. I mean, they were, to be honest with you, pretty much opposite of my birth mother. And I was adopted, and I was moved. My father bought a dental practice out in Oregon, and we moved to the West Coast. And for those of you who grew up in a religious family, you can probably relate to this, but my father ran a large portion of the Mormon church for the Western U.S. So they were devout Mormons. There was a lot of religious backgrounds, a lot of religious conversations, and we had a lot of really dynamic conversations. Like, do you guys remember prior to Who's Baby Daddy, is it on Maury Povich, they had the adoption specials, where they would surprise like a 17-year-old that they're adopted, right? That never happened to me. Right, thank God. My parents were really honest and transparent about the fact that I was adopted, and I came from here, and my parents ended up adopting 2 more kids, so there's a total of 3 children in my family. And as great as they were about having conversations about a lot of things in life, they were not good about talking about sex. And I don't know how many of you guys can relate to that, but that was just one area that they chose to ignore. They wouldn't talk about it, they didn't want to talk about it, and it went on that way for a long time. And I remember being in middle school and really wanting to prove to them that I was a worthwhile investment, right? I knew that they went out and, got me and worked for me and that they loved me, but I wanted to show them I was worth their time and energy. So I was involved in school and church and the community, everything I could be involved in. And I remember, you guys remember how scary the first day of first day of high school was, right? Like, it's really scary. And if you say it wasn't, you're lying. Because it's scary for everyone. It's like such a scary, scary time. And on top of that, I found out that my very first day of high school was also sex ed. First period, first day. I'm like, really? Like, it's already not bad enough, right? And so here I am, I'm in school, it take forever to pick the perfect thing you're gonna wear, and you're all nervous. And I walk into the class, and can we agree that they never hire attractive people to teach sex ed? Like, I just want to have a raised hand. Who had a really hot sex ed teacher? Oh, we should have gone there. That would have made it more fun. Okay, but right, typically schools do not hire overly attractive people. I don't know why. Maybe it's an abstinence-only approach, because it kind of works, right? But I walk into high school, and it's Mr. Hammerstein, and he is like 100, right? And he's got like an oxygen tank, like, things aren't working, and they haven't been working for a long time. I mean, we'll just leave it at that. So I sit in the class, and I darted for the very back seat, very back row, right? Because I just wanted to listen, but I didn't want to engage because I felt really out of my element. And so I sit in the very back seat, and I'm I just remember like sweat dripping down my face. And I'm sitting in this very back seat, and you guys remember the books they gave out, right? Really painful picture books. And I'm looking at the book, kind of flipping through it, and I've realized he's counted the number of students versus the number of sentences. So there's no way I'm going to get out of reading out of this book. And as it comes around the row right before me, I realize that my sentence has both the words penis and vagina. Like, the girl in front of me got to be like, and they ran in the park. I'm like, that's not fair. How come I have to have both of those words, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm starting to practice the words. And I have the book open, and I'm just whispering, penis and vagina. And I don't realize I'm starting to say it out loud, and the whole row just shifts away from me. Right? And I'm like, oh God, I was saying it out loud. And so I'm starting to get really nervous, and I'm saying it out loud. And my sentence comes, and I say it, and no one looks twice. No one looks twice. And I realized that I didn't screw it up. Because I want to show the importance of this moment. Imagine if I had called a vagina a vagina. Can you, like in my yearbook, I would have been Vagina Boy, right? On my locker, I would have been Vagina, like this would have caused therapy at several points in my life, right? So this was really important. And I lead that class, and I'm like kind of congratulating myself, and I'm like, cool, I did it, right? I'm not gonna be made fun of. But I realized I was so busy not being made fun of that I forgot to listen, right? And I'm trying to figure out how to hijack a book so I can read it later to get this information. And then I get home. And I love my father, and he would acknowledge this if he was here. He's an awkward man by nature. Like, he's a great guy, but he's just so awkward. And like, so awkward conversations are even that much more awkward with him, right? They're just really unbearable. And no matter how cool your parents are, can we agree that the birds and the bees is a little weird by nature, right? We just kind of want it to be over before it starts. And so I walk home, and my dad always worked late. He was never home before like 8 o'clock at night. And he gets home at like 4 in the afternoon, and I'm like, why is he home? And he says to me, oh, I heard you talked about the birds and the bees at school today. And I'm like, oh, no, right? And so he says, well, I want to talk to you right as your father. It's important to me we talk. So he asked me to go downstairs. I go sit on the couch, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here. But we sit on the couch, and he pulls out a VHS tape. Not even a DVD, right? You guys remember what those are? This big, that thing? Okay, just making sure. So there's a VHS tape. It's not that bad. He puts it on the coffee table. I lean forward to read it, and it says, How Babies Are Made by PBS. But it gets worse. The runtime is 4 hours and 55 minutes. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll never make a baby because I don't even like washing dishes, and that takes like 10 minutes, right? I'm thinking like, okay, I am so in the clear. This is an abstinence-only approach, just like my health class. And so he puts on the DVD, and it starts playing, right? And there's like a couple, you guys remember those like very old, scary movies about sex? And there's like a couple, and they're like running in the park and holding hands, and there's a scary narrator with a voiceover. And then all of a sudden, he reaches forward and presses fast forward. Not once, but like 10 times, so it's going at the speed of light. And it's like walking and laughing, and then like a really black screen with these white fish, tadpole-looking things, and I'm trying to like watch it and understand. And then all of a sudden a baby comes flying out, and we both scream, and then the credits roll. Right? And we're both trying to figure out what just happened, and we look at each other. Neither of us wants to say anything. And then he says to me, now that was a good conversation. And that was it. And like the reality was that at that moment I realized that was the basis of my sexual education within the walls of my home. That was it. That was all I was ever going to get. And so life went on. I started my freshman year of high school, and I don't want to lose you guys. I am not here for a political agenda, but I am really blessed to have parents that always installed a value of being who I am. And I decided to come out my freshman year of high school. And I told my best friend during first period, and you know, high schoolers have a way of communicating with their brains that doesn't require words. It's really crazy the way they can do it. So by the time I walked from first to second period, everyone knew. Like, everyone knew. And I'm walking from first period, and I heard someone use the word bagger. And I remember hearing it and thinking I caught part of a conversation, right? But it wasn't about me. I just assumed it was someone else talking. And then I remember for the first time feeling spit at the back of my head, right? And I remember walking that, what forever felt like the longest walk ever, and thinking, everything changed. Everything changed. Right? I wasn't even noticed in first period, and now I was too noticed. And the weeks and the months went on, and I basically became what would be equivalent to a human punching bag. People had a bad day, they had a bad moment, they seemed to always find me no matter where I was. And I grew up in this, it was a fairly small farming community of Oregon. And my car, where I could park for our class, was on the other side of the school. And I would have to walk all the way around the school in order to not catch this certain group of people that typically gave me a lot of issues. And I remember thinking, you know, in life, there's two options. You either always walk around or you walk through, right? Always. And I had spent months walking around, and I was tired.